if you're an investor who's focused on long-term value creation, and you live on a planet with finite resources, you have a vested interest in the circular economy. The good news is that even in the last few years, we've seen the emergence of funds focused on the circular economy, including those managed by BlackRock. And we definitely see an opportunity to drive capital towards these solutions. I think public equities funds, there might have been one fund in 2018. Now there's over a dozen private market funds as well, and a large increase in assets under management in such funds. So we've certainly seen very strong interest and very strong returns, to be honest, as these new funds build track records. I think if you're an investor who is focused on long-term value creation, and you live on a planet with finite resources, you have a vested interest in the circular economy. So I think as investors educate themselves about that, they are leaning into this area accordingly.
Yeah, it has been actually a very fascinating evolution over the past couple of years. When we launched our plastic waste resolution, actually more than 2 years ago now, and we made a pledge that Morgan Stanley would facilitate the prevention, reduction, or removal of 50 million tons of plastic waste from ending up in nature. I think initially the reaction was, oh, that's really great. But there wasn't necessarily a complete understanding of why we as a global financial institution would be tackling plastic waste. I think very, early on, the more natural question is, isn't that something more for the chemical companies or the consumer packaging companies? And, the reason that we did it was we had this real conviction that because plastic is so permeated and woven through every single aspect of the economy and, all of our personal lives, we had to have sort of a full economy approach to it. And that meant every sector, including finance, as a major enabler across that. So what's been really interesting is, right when we launched the plastic waste resolution, that was April 2019, I believe, we did a small proof of concept bond with the World Bank. It was a $10 million bond focused on, life below water, to really focus on, marine plastic. And we saw that it was very, very successful. It led us then over the next 2 years to be able to do much larger transactions, like, the $1 billion green bond with Pepsi, focused on reducing the virgin plastic in their beverage chain, with Coca-Cola FEMSA, with Alphabet. And all along that progression, what we've seen is a really increasing focus by investors, specifically on plastic waste and the circular economy, not only as something that they cared about as an issue or as a consumer, but really something that they saw the opportunity to align their investments to. I mean, interestingly, we recently launched a new set of strategies where for minimum investment of as little as $10,000, investors could invest in a portfolio aligned towards plastic waste reduction. That has ended up being one of the fastest growing new product introductions on our wealth management platform. That just shows you how much the two are aligned. In fact, when we did a poll of investors, because through the Morgan Stanley Institute for Sustainable Investing, we're continually polling investors about their interests in sustainable investing. I'd say with respect to this topic, there's two very interesting trends I would highlight. One, we've seen an increasing trend in investors being more and more interested, not just in sustainable investing generally, but in very specific targeted themes. And when we ask them, what themes are you most interested in, the very top three were climate change, plastic waste reduction, and circular economy. And I would just conclude by saying I think that really resonates with a lot of things that Paul are saying, that increasingly I think there's been a real shift of people not just seeing circular economy as something that in many people's minds invokes, ooh, that must mean less growth, right? If we're using stuff over and over again and we're producing less stuff, that must be less growth. People are now understanding that can actually be an incredibly compelling growth opportunity and therefore investment opportunity. So we've been very excited to see the progress there.